Oh, hey, Hoss. Long time no see. What if we combined the back-to-back World War winning Moshin 45 AARP and combined it into a modern double-stack 2011? JD's and Letterman introducing the Alchemy 45 AARP 2011. To shoot 9mm and have that sissy dome, actual size of a 45 AARP shooter right here, boys. Oh, hey, guys, I gotta tell you about a homie here of the channel. It's Badlands Munitions, based right here in the United States out of Arizona, manufacturing the finest and highest quality 5.56 match grade and plinking ammo. They've got 70 grain TSX for self-defense and hunting. They've got 85 grain for match grade, and they've got it loaded in shell shock cases that are getting an extra 100 to 150 feet per second over brass. They've got 9mm too, jello shots that are buttery smooth, 9mm self-defense and plinking ammo. Guys, with code 110SAS, you get 10% off. 10% off all ammo purchases with code 110SAS. Guys, that's the homies supporting the homies. You gotta go check them out. So basically, we're ready for World War III. A 2011 and 45 AARP, JD's and Letterman. My goodness gracious, they finally done it. For far too long, we have had these sissy manicured hands shooting 9mm when you could have been shooting 45 AARP. That's not two. No, just two. But maybe 3 world wars. JD's and Letterman, welcome back to the show. How can one man wield so much stopping power in such a small package? How have we already stopped World War III before it's already begun? Well, it's simple. We got one of these bad Larrys right here, chambered in the Lord's caliber of 45 ACP. A very interesting gun. And to be quite frank with you, with the entire market shifting towards 9mm, well, it's not even shifting, it's actually solidified. Everything is 9mm today. If it's not chambered in 9mm, it probably doesn't sell, unless it's like some oddball cartridge that people just seem to love their memes of, like 10mm, for instance, which is lousy bear gun. Pretty cool cartridge, but lousy bear gun, guys. Anyway, so 45 ACP. Why? Why would they do such a thing? Well, let's talk about it. So, 45 ACP. This has been a cartridge that has been around for a century, over a century, and it has been incredibly successful. Why has it been so successful? Well, it's a 45 caliber slug. A 45 caliber slug is no joke, boys and girls. Guys, that is a serious entrance wound, and that is a serious exit wound. Much larger than 9mm, but does that make it better? I really don't want to get into that kind of topic because, oh my goodness gracious, you guys will be fighting amongst yourselves in the comments, and I love you guys too much to have you guys arguing amongst yourselves. I would never want that to happen. So this is a very interesting direction to go towards, and I really want to show you guys what this thing is all about. Now, when you think 2011, you immediately think double stack, 1911, chambered 9mm. In fact, actually, 2011 is just owned by Staccato. Staccato has trademarked that. Actually, I think it was STI who trademarked that, and then they bought Staccato and became one. I don't know of the exact transition, but I do know that they own that term. When people say 2011, they basically mean a double stack 1911 instead of course, a single stack. So we have 15 rounds, back-to-back World War winning 45 ACP. I think what has limited the 45 from ever growing and just continuing to keep up with the current trends is literally magazine capacity. It makes almost 0 sense to carry 7 rounds of 45 ACP, even though it does have more stopping power. It makes no sense when I have 17 plus 1 of 9mm. And to be quite frank, with the way that ballistics have changed over, especially just in the last decade, bullet technology and powder technology, 9mm it's a pretty solid round. For stopping human threats, it's an extremely solid round, especially with some of these new projectiles they are loading. Like a lot of these Spear gold dots, I mean, they are just phenomenal. You watch these things go through ballistic gel, and it's like, I don't want to be on the receiving end of that at all. I mean, I don't want to be on the receiving end of even a 22 or a pellet gun, but a 9mm, let alone with some good spicy rounds, yeah, No thanks, doesn't sound very cool. So it's interesting to see a 45 come to market and see if they can change things up. So 45 double stack is absolutely nothing new. In fact, it came out before 9mm double stack, which I thought is super interesting. So there's a couple companies that come to mind. The biggest one being Para Ordnance. They were the first, I want to say, to the game in doing anything in a massive quantity and a massive scale of double stack 45. Most of those were right around like 11 to 12 round mag capacity. Some of them less, some of them more, depending on if you want extended with it or not. But this guy here is coming in at 14 plus 1. Another fun fact, too, is Remington. Remington was kind of messing around with that in the 90s and early 2000s as well. When I seen one of these come out from a company I already like and I already support, in fact, I think this is my 5th Alchemy pistol I've owned. 3 single stacks, 1 double stack, 9mm Alchemy Quantico HI-Cap, and now this Alchemy Quantico HI-Cap in 45 ACP. Now, let's talk about the actual performance of this gun. First thing right out of the box, I immediately noticed is like, okay, like this is solid. This is a really well-built gun. It's fitted extremely well. You know, even being 45 ACP, you usually have stiffer springs in there, but this thing feels like, man, it's on ball bearings. First thing I usually do when I get a 1911 is like, all right, let's see if it's a rattle trap. No, nothing. Okay. Or it's like, it literally sounds like a bucket of bolts and you're like, oh God, like I hope this thing runs. But this thing fitted extremely well. The slide to frame fitment it's phenomenal. They do a very, very good job there. And I tell you, it feels like it is on ball bearings on there. Like if a Swiss watch company came and made this thing, that's what it feels like. It's very difficult to explain over, you know, a YouTube video, but the second that you pick it up and the second that you feel it, you're like, oh, okay, I get it. I know what he means. Any of you guys that have like held like a really high-end 1911, like, let's say like a Nighthawk and Atlas or something like that, and you just rack it a few times, you're like, oh my God, like, what? So, especially if you're used to like striker-fired pistols, some of the cheaper in the lineup, you know, Glock, Smith & Wesson, Walther, HK, they're a little gritty and they're kind of sloppy. You can take it and wiggle it around and stuff, but this thing here is just fitted so incredibly well. And so it's like, okay, I like that. I like that a lot, but we got to shoot it. Like slide to frame fitment's all cool and everything if you just want to hang it on the wall and tell your friends about it, but we got to actually shoot this thing and see what it's like. So 45, yes, you are going to have more recoil felt when you shoot a 45 versus 9mm. It's science, bro. Trust the science. So we have a 230 grain projectile versus say 124 grain or 115 grain projectile in the 9mm. You're immediately going to feel that difference. There's just more felt and pass-through recoil into your hand, causing the muzzle to rise up a little bit more. And 45, yeah, has always been notoriously more difficult to shoot in a sense of fast, rapid performance shooting. So getting more rounds on target faster, I have always found, I don't care how great that you are. I'm not the greatest shooter in the world. I never will be, but I can shoot to a point where I can absolutely positively notice I can get 3 rounds A-zone hits with a 9mm much faster than I can with this. It's not that this gun makes you shoot worse. No, it's literally just, you know, it's kind of a training issue in a sense, but it just shoots with more recoil. And simply put, if your muzzle is rising higher and more aggressively and faster than another gun, yeah, it's just going to be more difficult to control. But what really surprised me is shooting this gun, it doesn't feel like a 45. You get this tons and tons of muzzle flip and you're like, oh God, bring it back down, hurry. And you're kind of like fighting to manipulate the gun versus just getting the dot on the target. And this thing, it just returns to 0 much faster. It is extraordinarily soft shooting for a 45. Now, we shot some plus P45 through this, and we shot mostly just ball 230 grain. I didn't tell an extreme difference between the two, and I think a lot of it has to do with how well these guns are built. And also, too, we have so much steel on this gun. We have steel frame, we have a steel slide, we have the barrel, all of this steel in here that also helps absorb recoil. It felt a lot like shooting a plus P 9mm through a short, snappy little like subcompact. So like if you shoot like the Springfield Hellcat, SIG P365, the smaller Glocks, and you shoot that with a 9mm, they're just going to be a little bit more snappy. 9mm really doesn't have a ton of recoil. Let's be honest here, guys. It's actually, it's the perfect pistol round in the sense of performance and just easy to shoot. Just about any new shooter can pick up a 9mm and relatively keep that gun in the space and not let the muzzle rise too fast. Now, yeah, you've seen some of the like military, quote unquote, professionals shooting these things with the teacup grip and just like the muzzle straight in the air after shooting one round. It's like, oh my God, that's scary. That's scary. But anyways, it's just really incredible what these things can do in just taming down the recoil. And it's not necessarily that this is doing any sort of super witchcraft science, black magic or anything like that. It's literally just a well-tuned gun and a well-built gun. And it absorbs so much recoil and helps keep that muzzle flat. That is the biggest thing that I found with this gun, is that when I go and shoot it, yes, you know that you're shooting a spicier gun. Yes, you know that you're shooting a 45, but it doesn't take very long to forget that you're shooting a 45. The only time that I really notice that there's extra recoil with this gun is when I'm shooting super fast and trying to keep, 10, 15 yard shot groups all in the upper A zone, upper thoracic kind of area, and getting those rounds on target and getting them fast. I did find myself kind of fighting through that a little bit, and my accuracy did suffer just a little bit, but it's nothing that you couldn't train through. It's simply put that, yeah, I just don't shoot 45 in a performance matter like I would a 9mm. I feel like shooting 45 has kind of been a handicap in a sense of like, if you are a performance-based shooter, you just don't shoot 45. You'd shoot 9mm because it's softer and you still get your rounds on target. And simply put, it's easier to shoot. That's why you see all of these pistol shooters, the Grand Wizard, Grand Master, whatever you want to call it, pistol shooters. Yeah, those dudes, they're all shooting 9mm or like 9 major, unless they go in like some weird category of like the power factor thing. I don't know. I'm not super well versed in that clearly, but I will say nobody's shooting 45. They're all shooting some sort of 9mm projectile. So yeah, it's very cool to see a 45 kind of perform in the same category as a 9mm in the sense of shootability. So that's super rad. Now, let's talk about magazine capacity. You can get two different ones from the factory. There's a 13 round mag that I have found you can put 14 in with no problems whatsoever. The only thing I'll say is make sure the magazine is firmly seated into the gun, because if you do go to draw and it's not, you don't hear that good positive click when you insert it into your mag well, it will fall out. But that's not a problem. It's literally just a training issue, especially if you've got a slide lock to the rear, no issues whatsoever. It's if you're trying to get the max capacity of the gun, 14 plus 1, you have to really make sure that this thing is seated in there. So you have essentially a 14 round magazine plus 1 in the chamber, which gives you 15 total, or the non-extended versions, which is 11 plus 1. I don't find any reason to run the 11 plus 1, especially considering how little of this magazine actually sticks out of the butt of the gun. If I'm going to carry this big, heavy 45 ACP pistol, I'm just going to get all of the rounds I possibly can into this gun and make sure that I have, the most ammo and the most opportunities to miss, because I'm pretty good at that. So we have these two different mags, and it's nice. I will say, again, I wouldn't mess with the 11 round mags if it were me. I'm just going to get all of the ammo I possibly can into one of these guys, because to be quite frank, there's 11 plus 1 mags. So you have 12 rounds total in your pistol, or you can just shoot a single stack and get the 10 round extended mags, and that gets you up to 11. So 10 plus 1, 11, 11 plus 1, 12. I'm probably just going to completely skip going with a double stack for 1 round. But I will move over to a double stack if I can get 15 rounds total versus 11 rounds total. So that's pretty rad. I do like that. And that's a big deal, actually. And that could possibly help make these things become a little bit more mainstream. Now, let's just talk about Alchemy in general. Alchemy was actually founded by a guy named Rob Shalin. I apologize if I butchered your name. But he is like the brainchild behind that company. And the big thing behind them is making minimalist firearms, which I absolutely love. That is the main and pretty much the only reason I really buy these guns, is because they don't look like ridiculous space guns. I am so sick and so tired of looking at high quality double stack 2011s and being like, man, I bet that gun is sweet. Man, I bet that thing shoots phenomenal. But I am not going to spend that money on a gun that just has so many lightning cuts and serration cuts and all of this ridiculous extra machining into it that just feels like a space gun. Like, I get it, you kind of have to be different to separate yourself from the competition or whatever, but man, I feel like some people might be trying too hard to try and look extremely different. Making guns that look absolutely positively nothing like a 1911. You look at it and you're like, what is that thing? I don't know. Maybe that's my inner boomer. Maybe that's my inner FUD speaking. I think some of them do it tasteful, but I genuinely don't think there's anything more tasteful than just a very traditional looking 1911. I mean, this is all 100% just styling. I mean, it's subjective. Yes, again, it's probably just my inner boomer speaking, but the reason I really buy these guns and the reason I really like these guns is, again, minimalist styling. It's just extraordinarily simple. It's not like, hey, look at me kind of crazy thing. It's simply put, this is a gun, and it feels much more like a tool than a piece of art. Now, don't get me wrong. This is a piece of art because what they do to these guns and how they fit these guns is outstanding. Miles and miles ahead, step above what you would see your typical Colt doing. Accuracy is the next thing I want to talk about. It's not very often that I shoot a pistol and I'm like, dang, man, I'm pretty good. Like, dang, man, like, that's pretty good. The accuracy of this pistol is absolutely outstanding. It is absolutely outstanding. 1.5-inch shot groups at 25 yards is what Alchemy promises. And that's what it delivers. That is, it's very weird to go through your target sweeps. You know, you got steel, and you go and you shoot through them all and you're like, every single one of those shots went exactly where I told it to. Well, that's pretty cool. Wow, I must be getting pretty good. A lot of it has to do with the pistol. The pistol is an absolute laser beam. I mean, it is an absolute laser beam, and it's incredible how accurate this pistol actually shoots. Making like 100-yard shots with this thing is just so easy. If you look at like an IPSC, we have a C-zone IPSC. That's what I usually run at the range. And if you just aim at the head, you're getting perfect like upper A-zone, thoracic area hits all day. Like, it's just, if you have a good trigger pull, like, it's gravy. It's really fun. It's hard to describe accuracy without like you getting behind with the gun and being like, oh, okay, I get it. And man, they do a really good job at that. So well done, Alchemy. So let's talk about reliability of this firearm. The reliability is absolutely incredible. And this is kind of one thing I want to talk about 9mm versus 45. So 9mm was never really designed to be in a 1911. In fact, the only gun that was ever designed to be a 9mm 1911 was the Commander size, which is a 4.25-inch pistol. And even then, they decided that it really wasn't worth it. And why wasn't it worth it? So you have all of this steel and this entire gun built off one cartridge, the 45 ACP. The whole gun was designed to run off this. Yes, there is tons and tons of technological advances to make this gun run reliably with a 9mm, but here's the thing. We start getting pretty wild with some of these 2011s that are coming out with these 9mm. There's inline ports, V8 ports, big chunk ports, there's comps, and then you start getting into softer springs so it shoots even softer, or heavier springs so it shoots faster, and all of this other stuff. And then on top of all of that, they gotta fit them to be so smooth so they fit so tight, and it's a wonder. It's an absolute miracle that these guns will run 750 to 1,000 rounds before you need to reapply oil or clean these guns. But when it comes to the 45, this gun was built and designed on this thing. So essentially, as long as you have a well-tuned extractor, an ejector, and your feed ramp is polished correctly, yeah, this gun will run. It can essentially almost run indefinitely. And it's because we have the 45 in it here to get through all of that grit, to break through all of that carbon and junk buildup in there that the 9mm simply cannot do. It is very interesting to see, like, a lot of people have this notion that 2011s aren't reliable. I'm not going to say that because I don't think that's the case at all. In fact, they are extremely reliable pistols. It all depends on how it's built and its intended purpose. What we have and what we are seeing today is these art guns, if you will. These guns are like art pieces, and they are fitted so tight, and they're made to shoot really, really, really smooth. And unfortunately, there are some sacrifices that do come with that. And what we're seeing is guns not built to be tools, but just like a very, very cool range toy. And that is a lot of the reason why we are starting to see some of these people have this notion that 2011s aren't, reliable pistols. They absolutely are. In fact, there's a reason why the 1911 has been around for so long, and the fact that the 1911 is the most copied platform all around, period, whether it's a striker-fired pistol or it's a hammer-fired pistol. The 1911 tilting barrel design and this lock up here is almost copied in every single design. Some sort of 1911 platform aspect is in just about every single pistol today, and it's because it is an incredible design and is way, way ahead of its time. You add the 45 into this, again, There's a reason why it stayed in service for what, like 80 years? It's not because like, it's just good enough. No, it's because it simply worked. Let's be real. By the time in the 80s, when we picked up the Berettas, yeah, that was definitely a better gun. But also too, what are we comparing against? Worn the heck out and rebuilt guns from the 1940s? That's pretty crazy. A lot of people opted for the 1911 even until, the global war on terror in the early years. A lot of special forces groups were still picking the 1911 and just modifying them and rebuilding them to their own specs because it simply worked better until we got some of these newer guns in. Yes, they do run pretty well. So reliability with this gun, I had zero issues whatsoever. It just simply ran. It's fantastic shooting experience and is just a fantastic gun. I'm not gonna lie, I would suspect that we might see more companies start doing double stack in different calibers other than 9mm. Some of the legacy calibers like 45, for instance, because they simply just run, and if you build them well, they don't feel like you're shooting a higher pressure or a higher recoiling cartridge. It feels like, yeah, this is just a stout shooting gun. And man, this thing is phenomenal. It is so much fun. It's so much fun to have 15 rounds of 45 because, again, we're so used to carrying like 17 plus 1 of 9, but then you get 15 rounds of 45 and it's like, okay, like, all right, I like that. I can get up on that. That's a lot of rounds, boys. And that's a lot of rounds of high quality, high stopping power ammunition. So, guys, I believe we have a wrap on this Alchemy 45 AARP double stack 1911, 2011, whatever you want to call it. I'm never going to call you wrong. I'm just going to call you a king. So, guys, we have a wrap. As always, say it with me, run your gun and not your mouth. We will catch you next time. Thank you.